Hi, glad you could join us. I'm Annette Sherman. This is Community. About 3 years ago, I came across a column in the Sarasota Herald Tribune's Business Weekly. It was written by a man I hadn't heard of. His name, Dennis Zink. And the column was titled, "What a Board of Directors Should Do." I found it particularly interesting and informative, and wished I had found it before having enlarged the Community Video Archive Board of Directors. I clipped the column, and I have had occasion to consult it several times since then. And also since then, I've been a fan of Dennis Zink's. And when he became the leading business columnist in the Herald Tribune's Business Weekly section, I called him and I set a meeting so that I could invite him to be a guest on my TV show. Now, get ready to make note of a few things, because Dennis has written approximately about 150 columns, maybe more. And you can get a list of those titles and even a copy of the columns that you select, all free of charge, by contacting theheraldtribune.com. Very easy, theheraldtribune.com. And now I want to introduce my special guest, the guru of small businesses, Dennis Zink. Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Annette. How are you?
I'm glad you could take time out of your busy schedule to come and visit us. And I know that you are working with not only with your column, which you seem to be able to knock out every week, but you're also, tell about what you're also doing.
Okay, I'm the chapter chair of Minnesota SCORE, and SCORE is an organization that's been around over 50 years. It's a partner of the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and we have over 303 chapters in the United States, and I'm the chapter chair of Minnesota SCORE.
Very important, because they do bring, again, business information to many, many people. And it seems sometimes that there are things in that business that need a little tutoring, need a little information, such as picking a board of directors. And I think I told you this when you were on last time. I had gone to the leading bookstore, the libraries, etc., trying to find a book that would give me information on the necessity of when you're choosing a board. Nothing. Really, there's nothing out there. Your column was so succinct and so informational, and it filled a gap that was needed to be filled. And a lot of the columns, all the columns that I'm reading, do the same thing. The column that I chose today, and it's fun kind of working with Dennis Zink, because I can pick any column that interests me, and he says, well, that's fine, go do that. Nothing is, oh, I don't like that guy. No, it's not that way. So the column that I picked is titled Problems and the Ostrich Syndrome. I love your titles. Do you wake up in the middle of the night, oh, that's a good title?
Sometimes.
Well, but because it explains it, and a title should
Right.
do that, among other things, I suppose, but it should do that. Problems and the Ostrich Syndrome. Okay, we're going to get Dennis to talk about it. Now, actually, usually we go into the background of my guests, but I don't want to take time to do that. Last time you were on the program, we went into that in depth, and then by the time we got to the program itself, we didn't have enough time to cover all of the information in the column. So if you want more information about Dennis Zink, just get the Herald Tribune, and it'll be the Monday issue, and you turn to get the business section, and usually they note on the bottom, the Dennis Zink column is on page 16 or whatever it is, so you can go, but you'll find it very easily. And I promise you that if you are someone who's involved in business, or have a husband or a friend or a cousin who's involved in business, there's something in those columns that you'll want to relate to that business person. Okay. Let's get to the column. The title of the program, as I said, is Problems and the Ostrich Syndrome. The first section is called The 5 Types of Problems. Now, please give us examples of each of the 5 types of problems. Let's start with problem type 1.
Okay. Probably the best way to relate it to the audience and just anyone in general is that health is a big factor. Everyone's concerned about their health. So I used cholesterol, having high cholesterol as an example, that if you have high cholesterol and you take a statin or you take some kind of pill to lessen your cholesterol, that's having a problem that you know about and that you're taking action to improve.
That's type 1.
That's type 1.
In other words, I know about the problem in my business, I could define it, and I have the solution or something that I believe will be the solution, and I'm in the process of doing it.
Right, you're in the process.
Okay, that's number 1. Number 2.
Number 2 would be a problem that you have that you're not doing anything about, and that's the ostrich syndrome. So you're putting your head in the sand, so to say, and you're maybe ignoring it, maybe you're just say, I'll get to it later, but that's the ostrich syndrome. So an example of that would be having high cholesterol and not doing anything about it.
But I have it, maybe it'll go away by itself, maybe they'll come up with some magic pill that I could take one of, something, but I'm not doing anything about it in my business. Now, I think, again, this is not an uncommon situation, that people can have a problem in business and just sort of not want to look at it. I don't care about that. I can't deal with it. I'm too busy. Or there isn't a solution. Or I don't just want to think about it.
Maybe it'll go away.
And maybe it'll go away by itself.
Maybe
That's
not.
type 2. Okay, type 3.
Type 3 is you have a problem and you don't know what the problem is.
There's something wrong and something's not functioning right. I'm not quite sure why it's not functioning right, but I know there's a problem. It's not functioning right.
Right.
Okay, so I don't do anything about it? Or
Well,
I do?
what you're trying to do is you don't really know what the problem is. You're not aware of it. So you have an issue, but you don't know what the solution is. You don't
really know what the problem is.
You really know what the problem is. So what you have to do is figure out, why are my customers not coming in at the rate they were before, for example. And then you start asking questions. Well, what's changed? You know, is there someone at the door chasing people away? Do I have an employee that's
has bad
nasty,
body odor?
Whatever. There's got to be some reason or reasons why that's happening. So you don't know, but you do research to try to figure out what the problem is.
The type number 3
Right.
is that you have the problem, you're aware of the problem being, not aware of the problem being there, but you know that you have a problem.
You have a problem.
I contradicted myself there. You have a problem, you don't know what's causing the problem.
Right, exactly.
But you know you have a problem because the customers are not coming in, as you suggested, as they used to, or there could be one of a dozen, 100 different things.
Right.
But you don't quite know what is causing it or to
Right.
define the problem.
Right.
Okay, number 4.
Getting back to the cholesterol, if you had high cholesterol and you didn't know you had high cholesterol, that would be that kind of a problem 3.
Okay, so I can't take care of it because I don't really know I have it. I know
exactly.
I've got a problem, though.
Right.
Okay. The number 4 problem, number 4 type of problem.
The number 4 type of problem is a financial or human resources problem. You have a problem, you know what the problem is, but you don't have the money or the manpower or the women power to be able to solve the problem.
So what I do then, or what the person does then, is just shelves it. Because they don't have the money, they don't have the person power to solve the problem, and so they just have to live with it, or they think they have to live with it.
At least temporarily, until they can address and maybe get the funding or the people to be able to solve that problem.
Okay, these are some of the problems. Then we have number 5.
Right. The 5th type of problem is basically a problem that you know about, but you can't resolve. It's really...
I've tried, but I can't.
It's a very serious problem. It's a non-resolvable problem. Basically, it's a question of lesser of the evils.
It's a question of what?
Lesser of the evils. So you may have a couple choices, but none of them are very good choices, or there's no choice at all.
Choices that I know of.
Or that there's no choice at all because you have terminal illness and there's nothing you can do. That kind of that's a problem.
Okay, so what you're doing in your column, and you're doing this more succinctly than we're doing it, bouncing back and forth, is creating, the first step would be, if I had to title it, awareness.
Right. You have to be aware of a problem in order to even think about fixing it, because if you're not aware of it, then there's...
And if I'm not aware of it, I haven't gotten to the ostrich syndrome yet because I'm not aware of it. I have to be aware of it and then stick my head in the sand.
That's the ostrich syndrome, right.
Okay. emphasize awareness in your column. It's being very important, and I guess we have realized how important it is just going through this. Okay, let's assume then the final paragraph is titled "New Opportunities May Exist." Give us an example of a new opportunity in a specific troubled situation.
Okay. So people are used to using GPS to find their way to a location.
Yeah, lovely.
And a company like Garmin, for example, was one of the leading companies, Magellan, et cetera, that had GPS that you could have in your car and figure out how to navigate. But today, something like an iPhone, a smartphone, any kind of smartphone, has GPS built in, and therefore it really changed the dynamic of having to need a separate device for
I know a lot of people are
GPS.
not aware of that.
Yeah,
That the iPhone will service you in that same way.
right. Or
Okay,
any
so
smartphone.
and
pretty much.
that is the when you're talking about important a new opportunity, a specific problem solution
Right.
situation. Okay, and let's move along. You talked about solving problems where you don't have the money or you don't have the person power. What about that?
Well, what you can do is try to do a workaround. And basically, if you have a business and you might consult a similar business like yours, maybe in a different market that's non-competitive. So they'll be free to give you the information because you're not competing with them. But that only gives you one data point. A better method might be to go to an association of your industry where there's lots
If there is such
if
a
there is
thing.
one, and then get industry information on what others have done, because chances are this isn't the first time anyone has had that problem. So you're trying to learn from others, how did they handle this problem, and is it the same problem that I have? And then again, the other thing is just to find out more of what to know what you don't know. Maybe read books, speak to people, talk to other people, and just see if you can get enlightened on what the real issue is by discussing it.
I think I said this, but I intended to say it. I don't know if I did or not. But in now kind of religiously reading Dennis's columns each Monday in the Herald Tribune's Business Weekly, I catching on to some things that I guess somehow were in the back of my head because they're not, oh my God, I had no idea about that. It wasn't that. It was that specifically, I wasn't thinking about that information to deal with a business problem. And what I have found is that lots of little things that you may indicate in the problem, different subjects each week. In fact, it might behoove you to get the list of titles, because the titles, Dennis Zink's titles, really give you a very accurate kind of understanding about the subject of the column. I think that's why the titles are so good. They're kind of catchy,
Yeah.
but they're also very, very informational. So that if you want that, again, you're going to have to get in touch with the heraldtribune.com. Very easy. You can do it on your computer, I guess.
Sure.
Just heraldtribune.com and look up Dennis Zink. Easy name, D-E-N-N-I-S, Z-I-N-K, rhymes with sink. And look in the column and say, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting title because I think that's what I'm dealing with, and maybe either call up or email and get the specific column. What I want to do, speaking of email, is to give you Dennis Zink's email. And if you have a question, a specific question for him, or a specific column idea that you think you would like to have spoken to or written about in this case, let's put that number on the screen. I guess you've done it. The telephone number to call, that is at your organization number.
It's my phone number.
It's your phone number, okay. And then underneath it is the Gmail address. So you can just note that and get in touch with Dennis if there's more information that you want. And there's lots, as I said before, lots of information that I have gleaned from his articles, and I haven't had the occasion yet to call him and panic and say, Dennis, help me. I haven't had that, but wait now.
I do that as a consultant, and I do charge for that.
I know you do, but I figured you'd donate it to me.
For you, I would do it,
Yeah,
absolutely.
see what I mean, okay. But I haven't had the occasion. I really have. That hasn't stopped me because
Sure.
sometimes you can get into a situation, I'll pay anything.
Yeah.
Let me solve this problem that I have that is driving me mad. But I learned something from this article, and that's why I wanted to use it on air, because each time Dennis comes on, we try to have him on once a month, we talk about what column we should use. And Dennis has a suggestion, and sometimes that's fine. But I wanted to get to that one because I think it's a neat idea. It's an excellent column because it tells it as it is, as you described
Everyone
it.
has problems.
Everyone has problems. Sometimes you're unwilling to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did is I had some sleepless nights I want to thank you for, that I was dealing with a problem, I'm not going to go into it publicly, but I was dealing with a problem in regard to my organization. And it has been plaguing me now for quite some time. Mm-hmm. But I resolved it. Right. I resolved it by dealing with it straightforward, as you suggested, mm-hmm. deciding what situation I was in, whether type 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and came to a conclusion on it, got some additional information and came to a conclusion. I mean, I'll let you know. Stay tuned.
So now you're sleeping well because of me.
Beg pardon?
Now you're sleeping better because you've read the column.
I've got other problems, though, Dennis.
Well, I don't know about that.
We're kind of out of time now, and I do want to take a few minutes to talk about the upcoming Community Video Archives. Community Video Archives is a not-for-profit organization that I started about, 28 years ago. And what it is, the organization, our reason for being is to create and preserve a living history of our community. And we do that by selecting, well, there are a lot of things that we do to create a living history. One is to have videos created that tell about unusual or specific wonderful aspects of our community. The other aspect of that organization is to choose 4 people each year who have done extraordinary things and have added to the greatness and the incredible aspects of our community, and to create their video biography. We have created over 150 biographies at this point. Each of those biographies are available in every Sarasota County Public Library, and you can borrow them just like a book and play them. At this point, there has been over 18,000 borrowings. Of course, it's 28 years, but nevertheless, we're pleased with that. And each year we have a luncheon. At the luncheon, there are 4 new honorees, and we never run out of them in this fabulous community, it seems. There's always more than we can handle.
I hope I'm on the list.
I'm sorry?
I hope I'm on the list.
Well, not this year, Dennis, not this year. But you never can tell. You never can tell. Okay, but I do want to talk about this year. And the event takes place this year, April the 24th. It's usually in April. It's always in April. And it's always at Michael's on East Ballroom. And the 4 honorees this year are quite extraordinary, as the honorees usually are. Judge Lee Hayworth. Judge Lee Hayworth has retired. He is known as the judge that accomplished more in his time than any judge in the history of our community. Extraordinary man, a charming man, and a man who is, well, you'll not only read about him, you'll be able to get his video biography, which is a wonderful story. Guy Peterson. Guy Peterson is an architect. In his 36-year career, he has received 80 of the most prestigious architectural awards that there are to bestow on anyone. A charming and handsome man, and he has created beautiful architecture in our community. He's the second one. Ian Webb. And if you are a ballet fan, and you're probably shaking your head and saying rah rah, because Ian Webb has taken our ballet, he's the head of our ballet, to new and grand understanding and renowned acceptance internationally and nationally. It's never happened before. And we're excited about that because he has made all these wonderful, wonderful steps forward for ballet. Dan Bailey. Dan is a renowned lawyer, but he's so much more, because Dan believes he's a sixth generation, his family is, in this area. And he's made a concerted effort to devote an enormous amount of his personal time to various organizations. In fact, I was just reading there was a meeting of the political, what is the political organization that, can't think of the name of it, debating, anyway, he was the MC for that. Things like that, of that sort, that he donates his time, his very, very busy lawyer, and has enormous reputation as being an extraordinary lawyer. So we've got 4 absolutely extraordinary people whose video biography we'll show clips of it. There'll be a delicious lunch prepared by Phil Mancini, and it'll all take place on the 24th of April. There will be a newsletter. In fact, the newsletter is going out this week. And in the newsletter, you will see some lovely pictures, and the pictures were taken by our precious photographer, because she works with us as well, Rose Lettiera. And Rose Lettiera is a beautiful and talented person who works with us as a volunteer. And a very close friend of hers, Michael Wade, is also working with us as our videographer. You're telling me something. Okay. But get the newsletter, and you'll see pictures of our people here. And all I can say is that we're about out of time. I don't know how much time we have. How much time do we have, Lynn? 5.5. Okay, a little more than 5 minutes. Just enough time, Dennis, to find out what we can look for in the way of your columns. How much in advance do you get these? Do you do the columns?
Well, at the beginning, I was probably 3 weeks in advance, and then that time frame lessened to 2, then 1, then the night before. So I turn them in on Tuesday evenings, and it comes out Monday. And I generally don't know what I'm writing about until Tuesday.
There's not a byline, but a time when you send me a column that it was done, that you put it on, and it's generally 1 in the morning.
Yes, that's
the
when
time you run.
No, that's the time they post it to their website.
That's
why. It's always
I was wondering. I meant to ask you. Made a note of that, and I forgot last time you were on.
Yeah.
That you work. Some people do work best at night.
Yeah, I do, but they just happen to post it at 1 o'clock.
Okay, because they're always around this about 1 o'clock, 1:02, 1:05, that kind of thing. Okay. Do you know what's coming up? Now, of course, this program will be aired a week from when we're taping it. Right. So think in those terms. What topic is coming up?
Next week, it will be EQ versus IQ. And what that is
EQ?
EQ is emotional intelligence versus IQ. People know what IQs are, intelligence.
Yes,
and
intellectual quotient.
Right, exactly. Why emotional intelligence is more important for leadership than IQ. And
what is emotional importance? And we don't want to talk about Donald Trump.
No. The emotional intelligence is kind of knowing yourself first, knowing how you would react to different situations, and then when you have employees that you're understanding of their issues, and you first have to understand where you're coming from in order to help them and help the situation. So it's a cultural thing. It has to do with leadership. But about 80% of leadership qualities, an effective leader, is emotional intelligence versus IQ, which is about
80% of leadership, business leadership,
is emotional intelligence. Successful leadership.
This is a statistical understanding, or is it your finding?
That comes out of Carnegie Mellon, that number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do your readers communicate with you and say, Mr. Zink, I'd like you to write about blah, blah, blah.
They do, and they, more than not, they comment on the columns that I write. So once it's out, then they'll comment on it that they agree or they
They
disagree.
come with the,
They'll comment
oh, they comment, oh, sure.
on the columns.
Oh, that was pretty dumb, I don't agree with you, or that was brilliant, I loved it.
Right, usually it's the latter.
There's no question that, I guess, if someone, for instance, in this, we were talking about the ostrich syndrome or the problems, if you don't want to admit, if the awareness is zilch, right, then I'm going to say that you're wrong. But you're not wrong. You're right in these evaluations of how people deal with potential problems or actual problems. Yep. I think you are. I'm not an authority in your subject matter, but it hit home with me. And as I said, I think after reading it, I just hooked into what I believe was the problem, and I just was going to look at it straightforward and find that solution. So I think that it works.
Absolutely, and if more people are benefiting like you are, then I'm succeeding at what I'm doing. So hopefully there's thousands of people out there every week that are benefiting from my column. And I go in places and people recognize me now in coffee shops, which is pretty interesting. They say, oh, I read your column. And, okay, well, great.
Well,
do you like
that's
it?
one thing they started. The Herald Tribune has improved, yeah, and they're looking to improve themselves each year. And they're doing, I think, far more pictures of columnists, because columnists were really people who were not identifiable. You knew their name, but you didn't know what they looked like, usually. Or if the picture was there, it was such an old picture, it was such a poor picture, it wasn't, you could never pick them out of a yeah, threesome. But at any rate, we just have about a minute. I wish you continued success, and if you out there, just the last thought that Dennis reminded me about, if there is a column subject that you would like to hear more about or have Dennis write about, you have the numbers. You have his email address and you have his telephone number. And if you didn't get it, call me. And if you don't know my telephone number, tune in next week and find out. That's about it for today. We thank you very much for watching, particularly during this temporary time change. But we'll be back with you next week. We just have a very few moments left, long enough to say thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.
The time really flew. We bid you adieu from community. If you want to know why we love it here, so check out Community.